Marcus Chen sat at his desk in the basement of Sterling Tech Corporation. The fluorescent lights above him buzzed like angry bees. His small desk was tucked away in the corner, near the old server machines that hummed all day and all night. He had worked there for 3 years, entering data into computer systems. Nobody really talked to him much. Nobody really knew him at all. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the email arrived. Marcus was eating his lunch at his desk like he always did. A ham sandwich and an apple, the same lunch he brought every single day because it was cheap and easy to make. He clicked on the new email without thinking much about it. The subject line read, "You are invited to the annual Sterling Tech Gala." Marcus blinked at the screen. He read it again to make sure his eyes were not playing tricks on him. The annual gala was the biggest event of the year at Sterling Tech. It was where all the important people went. The executives wore expensive suits and dresses. They drank champagne that cost more than Marcus made in a week. They talked about golf and vacation homes and things that Marcus could only imagine. He had never been invited before. Not in 3 years. Marcus opened the email slowly. His heart beat a little faster in his chest. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe they sent it to the wrong person. But there it was, clear as day. Dear Marcus Chen, you are cordially invited to attend our annual gala on Saturday evening at the Grand Meridian Hotel. He sat back in his chair. The old chair creaked under his weight. Marcus did not know what to think. Part of him felt excited. Part of him felt confused. Why would they invite him now? What had changed? The answer came faster than he expected. Hey, look who got invited to the party. A voice called out from across the room. Marcus looked up. It was Derek Thompson, his supervisor. Derek was 35 years old with perfect hair that he probably spent an hour styling every morning. He wore expensive shoes that clicked on the floor when he walked. Derek was the kind of man who smiled with his mouth but not with his eyes. Behind Derek stood 3 other workers from the upper floors. They were all grinning. Not the nice kind of grin that makes you feel good. The other kind. The kind that makes your stomach feel tight. Did you really think they invited you because they like you? Derek asked. He leaned against Marcus's desk like he owned it. Come on, Marcus. Use that big brain of yours. One of the other men laughed. His name was Brad, and he worked in marketing. Someone posted a video of you last week, Brad said. You were eating lunch alone in the server room, talking to yourself about computer codes or something. It got shared around the office. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Marcus felt his face grow hot. He remembered that day. He had been thinking out loud about a problem he was trying to solve. He did not know anyone was watching. He definitely did not know anyone was recording. The executives saw it, Derek continued. They thought it was funny. Really funny. So funny that they decided you should come to the gala, for entertainment. The words hit Marcus like cold water. Entertainment. He was not invited because he did good work. He was not invited because they valued him. He was invited to be laughed at, to be the joke of the evening. We're taking bets on what you'll wear, another man said. This one worked in sales. Marcus could never remember his name. I'm guessing you don't own a suit? They all laughed again. Then they walked away, their voices echoing in the basement as they climbed the stairs back to their offices with windows and natural light. Marcus sat very still. He looked at the email on his screen. The words blurred a little bit. He was not sure if he was angry or sad or something else entirely. Maybe he was all of those things at once. He closed the email. Then he opened it again. Then he closed it. For the rest of the afternoon, Marcus could not focus on his work. Numbers on the screen looked like strange symbols. His fingers felt clumsy on the keyboard. His mind kept going back to that video. He wondered how many people had seen it. He wondered how many people had laughed. When 5 o'clock came, Marcus packed up his things. He put his empty lunch container in his old backpack. He turned off his computer and stood up. His legs felt heavy as he walked to the stairs. The building was mostly empty by the time he left. Marcus liked it that way. Fewer people to avoid, fewer chances to feel invisible while standing right in front of someone. He took the bus home like he always did. The bus was crowded with tired people going home from work. Marcus stood near the back holding onto a pole, watching the city pass by through dirty windows. Big buildings, bright signs, people rushing everywhere. The world moved so fast and Marcus always felt like he was standing still. His apartment was small. One bedroom, one bathroom, a kitchen that was barely big enough to turn around in. But it was his, and it was clean, and the rent was cheap enough that he could afford it on his salary. Marcus had lived there for 5 years, even before he started working at Sterling Tech. He dropped his backpack by the door and went straight to his closet. He pushed aside his everyday clothes, work shirts, jeans, t-shirts for weekends. At the very back, covered in a plastic garment bag, was a suit. Marcus pulled it out slowly. The suit was black, simple, nothing fancy, but it was well made and it still fit him. He knew it would. He had not gained or lost weight in years. He laid the suit on his bed and stared at it. This was the suit he wore to his mother's funeral. The memory came back sharp and clear, like it always did. It had been 4 years ago. 4 years since cancer took his mother away. 4 years since he stood in a small church and played the piano one last time while people cried in the pews. His mother had loved music. She had loved it more than anything except for Marcus himself. When he was 7 years old, she took him to a neighbor's house. The neighbor had an old piano in her living room. Marcus touched the keys and something inside him woke up. His fingers found melodies he did not know he could play. His mother saw it immediately. She saw the gift he had, and even though they were poor, even though she worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table, she found a way to pay for piano lessons. Every week Marcus went to Mrs. Patterson's house down the street. Mrs. Patterson was old and strict, but she knew music. She taught Marcus how to read notes, how to feel the rhythm, how to let the music flow through him instead of fighting against it. Marcus practiced every day, in the morning before school, in the evening after homework. His mother would sit in her worn armchair and close her eyes and listen. Sometimes she would cry, but they were good tears. Proud tears. By the time Marcus was 17, he was good. Really good. Good enough that Mrs. Patterson made some phone calls. Good enough that people from Juilliard came to hear him play. Good enough that they offered him a full scholarship to one of the best music schools in the world. Marcus remembered the day the letter came. His mother screamed with joy. She danced around their tiny apartment. She called everyone she knew. Her son was going to Juilliard. Her son was going to be a concert pianist. Her son was going to have the life she never could. But 3 weeks before Marcus was supposed to leave for New York, his mother went to the doctor for a cough that would not go away. The doctor did tests, then more tests. Then he called them into his office and used words like stage 4 and aggressive and, I'm sorry. The cancer was everywhere. In her lungs, in her liver, in her bones. The doctor said she had maybe 6 months, maybe less. Marcus did not think twice. He called Juilliard and told them he could not come. He got a job, then another job, then a third job. He worked every hour he could to pay for treatments, to pay for medicine, to pay for a home nurse when his mother got too weak to be alone. She lasted 8 months. 8 months of fighting, 8 months of pain. 8 months of Marcus holding her hand and telling her everything would be okay, even though they both knew it would not be. Near the end, when she could barely speak, she made Marcus promise something. She made him promise that he would play piano again someday, that he would not let his gift die with her. Marcus promised, but it was a lie. A kind lie, but a lie. After she died, Marcus could not touch a piano, could not even look at one. Every time he saw those black and white keys, he saw his mother's face. He heard her voice. He felt the weight of everything he had given up, so he stopped. He got a regular job at Sterling Tech doing data entry. He moved into a cheap apartment. He lived a small, quiet life where nobody expected anything from him, where nobody knew about Juilliard or scholarships or the gift he used to have. Now standing in his apartment looking at the suit on his bed, Marcus thought about the gala. He thought about Derek and Brad and all the others who saw him as a joke. Part of him wanted to ignore the invitation, to stay home on Saturday night, to avoid the humiliation. But another part of him, a part he thought had died with his mother, felt something different. It felt anger. Real hot anger. These people did not know him. They did not know what he had sacrificed, what he had given up, who he really was. Marcus picked up the suit. He held it in his hands. The fabric felt smooth and cool. He would go to the gala. He would not hide. He would not give them the satisfaction of breaking him before the evening even started. He would walk into that ballroom with his head up. Whatever happened after that, he would face it. Marcus hung the suit back in the closet. Then he went to his small kitchen and made dinner. Rice and vegetables. Simple food that did not cost much. While he ate, he thought about Saturday night. He thought about what he would say if people mocked him. He thought about how he would keep his face calm and his voice steady. What he did not think about was the piano. He pushed that thought away every time it tried to surface. The piano was part of his past. A past he had buried. A past that needed to stay buried. The next few days at work were difficult. People kept looking at Marcus and whispering. He heard his name mentioned in conversations that stopped when he got too close. Someone printed out a picture of him from the video and taped it to the bathroom mirror with the words "Party Guest of Honor" written underneath. Marcus took it down and threw it away. Then he went back to his desk and did his work. Numbers and codes and data entry. The same thing he did every day. The same thing that kept him busy enough not to think too much. Derek stopped by his desk twice. Once to ask if Marcus had rented a tuxedo yet. Once to remind him that the gala started at 7 o'clock sharp and that being late would be really embarrassing for everyone. Marcus said nothing both times. He just nodded and went back to his work. Words felt dangerous right now. Anything he said could be used against him later. So silence seemed safer. On Friday afternoon, Marcus left work early. He told his supervisor he had a dentist appointment. It was not true, but nobody questioned it. Nobody cared enough to question it. He went to a small shop downtown that did dry cleaning. The woman behind the counter was old and kind. She took his suit and promised it would be ready by Saturday morning. She did not ask why he needed it cleaned. She just smiled and said it would look very nice. Marcus thanked her and left. Then he walked for a while, through the city streets, past shops and restaurants and people living their lives. He bought a new white shirt from a discount store. Nothing fancy, just clean and simple. He bought a plain black tie. Together everything cost him $40. It was money he did not really have to spare, but he spent it anyway. Saturday morning came too fast. Marcus woke up early, even though he did not need to. His stomach felt tight. He made coffee but could only drink half of it. He showered and shaved carefully. He picked up his suit from the dry cleaner. The old woman had done a good job. The suit looked almost new. Back at his apartment, Marcus got dressed slowly. The shirt first, buttoning it all the way up. Then the pants. Then the jacket. Then the tie, which he had to redo 3 times before it looked right. He looked at himself in the small mirror by his door. He looked different. Older, maybe. More serious. The suit fit him well. Better than he remembered. For just a moment, he looked like someone who belonged at a fancy gala, someone important. Then he remembered why he was really invited and the feeling disappeared. Marcus checked the time. It was 6 o'clock. The gala started at 7. The Grand Meridian Hotel was downtown. He could take the bus and be there in 30 minutes. That would give him time to walk in, find his table, sit down before too many people arrived. He grabbed his wallet and his keys. He took one last look around his apartment. Then he walked out the door, locked it behind him, and headed toward whatever was waiting for him that evening. The bus ride felt longer than usual. Marcus sat by the window and watched the city change as they drove downtown. The buildings got taller. The streets got cleaner. The people walking on the sidewalks wore nicer clothes. This was not his world. This was where people like Derek lived. People who never worried about money or respect or being invisible. The Grand Meridian Hotel stood 30 stories tall, all glass and steel and lights. Marcus got off the bus a block away and walked slowly toward it. Other people were arriving too. Men in tuxedos, women in long dresses that sparkled under the streetlights. They arrived in expensive cars. They laughed and talked and looked like they belonged. Marcus walked through the front door. The lobby was huge with marble floors and crystal chandeliers and music playing softly from hidden speakers. A man in a uniform directed him toward the ballroom on the 2nd floor. Marcus climbed the wide staircase. His heart beat hard in his chest. His hands felt cold. At the top of the stairs, 2 large doors stood open. Inside, he could see the ballroom. Round tables covered in white cloth, centerpieces of flowers, candles everywhere. And in the corner on a small stage sat a grand piano. Marcus stopped walking. He stared at that piano, black and shining and beautiful. He had not been this close to a piano in 4 years. Not since his mother's funeral. Not since he made himself forget what it felt like to play. "Are you coming in, or are you just going to stand there?" a voice asked. Marcus turned. It was Brad from marketing. He was already holding a glass of champagne. His face was red like he had already had a few drinks. "Come on," Brad said. "The fun's about to start. And you're the main attraction." He laughed and walked past Marcus into the ballroom. Marcus took a deep breath, then another. Then he stepped through the doors into the evening that would change everything. The ballroom was even bigger than it looked from the doorway. Marcus walked in slowly, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. The ceiling was high, decorated with painted designs and hanging lights that looked like diamonds. Everything in the room seemed to sparkle. The floor, the glasses, even the people. Marcus found his name at a table near the back of the room. Not at the head table where the executives sat, not even in the middle. At the back where the light was dimmer and the noise from the kitchen was louder. He was at a table with people he did not know. People who looked at him when he sat down and then looked away quickly, like they were not sure what to say. "Hi," Marcus said quietly. A woman across from him nodded. She had gray hair and kind eyes. "Hello, dear. I'm Margaret. I work in accounting." Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I'm Marcus. I do data entry." Margaret smiled a small smile. "I know who you are." "Everyone knows who you are tonight." Marcus felt his face grow warm. So the video had spread even further than he thought. Even the people in accounting knew about it. Even Margaret, who looked like somebody's grandmother, had probably watched him talking to himself in the server room. Before he could respond, more people began filling the ballroom. They came in groups, laughing and talking loud. The executives arrived last. They walked in like they owned the place, which Marcus supposed they did. The CEO was a woman named Elizabeth Hartwell. She was probably in her 60s with white hair cut short and sharp. She wore a dark blue dress that looked expensive. Her face was serious, not friendly, but not mean either. Just business. Everyone stood when she entered. Marcus stood too, a beat late. Elizabeth walked to the head table and sat down. Then everyone else sat down. Waiters appeared from nowhere, carrying trays of champagne glasses. Marcus took one when it was offered. He did not usually drink, but tonight felt like a night when he needed something to hold on to. The first hour passed slowly. People talked and drank. Waiters brought out salads, then soup, then the main course, which was some kind of chicken with sauce that Marcus could not identify. It tasted good, but his stomach was so tight that he could barely eat. He pushed food around on his plate and tried to be invisible. But being invisible was not in the plan for tonight. Derek appeared at his table halfway through dinner. He was drunk. Not falling down drunk, but drunk enough that his words came out too loud and his laugh came out too often. "Marcus," Derek said, putting his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Having a good time? Enjoying the fancy food?" Marcus set down his fork. "It's fine. Thank you." "Fine? Just fine?" Derek laughed. "Come on, man. This is probably the nicest meal you've had in years. You should be grateful." People at nearby tables were starting to look over. Margaret, the woman from accounting, frowned but said nothing. Marcus could feel eyes on him. Lots of eyes. "I am grateful," Marcus said quietly. "Good. That's good." Derek swayed a little bit. "You know what, Marcus? You're a good sport. Most people would have stayed home if they knew they were invited as a joke. But not you. You showed up. You got dressed up in your little suit. You're sitting here eating your chicken like you belong. I respect that. I really do." Brad appeared next to Derek, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "Are you talking about the video?" he asked. "Man, that video was gold. Pure gold. I must have watched it 10 times. 20 times for me," Derek said. They both laughed. Marcus felt something hot and angry rise in his chest. He wanted to stand up. He wanted to tell them exactly what he thought of them. But he stayed sitting. He kept his face calm. He had promised himself he would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him break. "You know what I love about that video?" Brad continued. He was speaking loud enough that people 3 tables away could hear. "It's that he's talking to himself like the computers can hear him. Like they're his friends or something. It's just so sad. Pathetic," Derek added. "But also hilarious." Margaret stood up suddenly. Her chair scraped against the floor. "That's enough," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it was firm. "Leave him alone." Derek turned to look at her. His smile did not reach his eyes. Relax, Margaret. We're just having some fun. Right, Marcus? We're all friends here. Marcus said nothing. He could not trust his voice right now. If he spoke, he might say something he would regret. Or worse, his voice might shake and they would know they had gotten to him. Brad leaned down close to Marcus's ear. Hey, I heard a rumor. Someone said you used to play piano. Is that true? Can you play chopsticks? That's probably your speed, right? The words hit Marcus like a punch. Piano, they were talking about piano. He had not told anyone at Sterling Tech about his past, about Juilliard, about the scholarship, about any of it. How did they know? Derek must have seen something in Marcus's face because he grinned wider. Oh, we did our research. Brad found some old stuff online. Local newspaper article about some kid from a poor neighborhood who got into a fancy music school. That was you, wasn't it? What happened? Did you fail out? Marcus's hands gripped the edge of the table. His knuckles turned white. He still said nothing. Come on, Marcus. Tell us the story. Did they kick you out? Did you realize you weren't good enough? Did you? He took care of his dying mother. Margaret's voice cut through Derek's words like a knife. She was still standing. Her kind face was now hard. His mother had cancer. He gave up his scholarship to take care of her. That's what happened. And if you had one shred of decency, you would be ashamed of yourselves. The tables around them had gone quiet. People were listening now. Really listening. Derek's face changed. For just a second, he looked uncomfortable. Then the smile came back, but it was different now. Forced. Hey, we didn't know. We were just joking around. No need to get all serious. You should leave, Margaret said. Both of you. Brad held up his hands. Fine, fine. We're going. Sorry if we hurt anyone's feelings. But his tone said he was not sorry at all. They walked away, back to their own table. The conversations around the room slowly started again. But Marcus could feel people looking at him. Some with pity, some with curiosity, some with something else he could not identify. I'm sorry, Margaret said softly, sitting back down. I shouldn't have said anything. I just couldn't stand listening to them anymore. It's okay, Marcus managed to say. His voice came out rough. Thank you. Is it true? About your mother? Marcus nodded. He did not trust himself to say more. Margaret reached across the table and patted his hand. You're a good son. I hope you know that. Marcus swallowed hard. He picked up his glass of champagne and drank it all in 3 gulps. The bubbles burned his throat. He wanted to leave. He wanted to walk out of this ballroom and never come back. But his legs felt heavy. His body felt stuck to the chair. The dinner plates were cleared away. Dessert came. Small chocolate cakes with raspberry sauce. Marcus ate his without tasting it. The room grew louder as people drank more. The lights seemed brighter. Everything felt too much. Then the lights dimmed. A spotlight appeared on the small stage at the front of the room. Elizabeth Hartwell, the CEO, stood and walked to a microphone that had been set up. Good evening, everyone, she said. Her voice was clear and strong. Thank you all for joining us tonight. As you know, this gala celebrates another successful year at Sterling Tech. We've grown. We've innovated. We've exceeded expectations. People clapped. Elizabeth waited for the noise to die down. Part of our success comes from the talented people in this room. All of you work hard every day to make this company what it is. And tonight I want to acknowledge that. More clapping. Marcus clapped too, mechanically. Now we usually have entertainment at this event. A live band, a singer. Something special. But unfortunately, our pianist for tonight had to cancel at the last minute. A family emergency. Elizabeth paused. So we're left with a beautiful piano and no one to play it unless... She looked out at the crowd. Marcus felt a strange prickle on the back of his neck. I heard through the grapevine that we have someone here tonight who plays piano. Someone who actually studied music seriously. Her eyes scanned the room. Marcus Chen? Are you here? Marcus's heart stopped. His whole body went cold. People were turning around looking for him. A spotlight swung across the room, searching. There you are, Elizabeth said. The spotlight found him. Marcus squinted in the bright light. Marcus, I heard you play beautifully. Would you honor us with a performance? The room was silent. Everyone was staring at Marcus. Derek and Brad were at their table, grinning. They thought this was the best joke yet. The data entry clerk who thought he could play piano. This would be the grand finale of the evening's entertainment. Marcus could not breathe. His mind was spinning. How did Elizabeth know? Who told her? And why was she asking him to do this? To humiliate himself in front of everyone? To prove that he was nothing special? That he was exactly what Derek said, pathetic? Marcus? Elizabeth's voice was patient. Not mocking, just waiting. Margaret leaned close to him. You don't have to do it, she whispered. You can say no, but could he? If he said no now, everyone would think he had lied, that he never could play, that Margaret had made it all up to defend him. He would be an even bigger joke than before. And there was something else. Something deeper. As Marcus sat there in the spotlight feeling hundreds of eyes on him, he felt a stirring inside, an old anger, an old pain, an old part of himself that he had tried so hard to bury. His mother's voice came to him across the years. Promise me you'll play again someday. Promise me you won't let your gift die with me. He had made that promise. He had broken it. For 4 years, he had broken it every single day. Marcus stood up. His legs were shaking. The room seemed to tilt a little bit. He could hear his own heartbeat in his ears, loud and fast. He took 1 step forward. Then another. Wonderful, Elizabeth said. Please, everyone, give Marcus some encouragement. People clapped. Some of the clapping sounded genuine. Some of it sounded curious. Some of it, from Derek's table, sounded like they were enjoying a show that was about to go very wrong. Marcus walked toward the stage. Each step felt like it took forever. His suit suddenly felt too tight. The room was too hot. He loosened his tie a little bit as he walked. The piano sat in the spotlight. It was a beautiful instrument. A Steinway grand piano, black and shining. The lid was already up, showing the strings inside. Marcus had not been this close to a piano in 4 years. He had avoided them. Crossed the street when he saw music stores. Changed the channel when piano concerts came on television. Now he had to touch one. Had to sit down. Had to put his fingers on the keys. He reached the stage. Climbed the 3 steps. His shoes made soft sounds on the wood floor. The piano bench was exactly the right height. He sat down slowly. The bench was hard and smooth. He could feel 300 people watching him. Waiting. Marcus looked at the keys. Black and white. 88 of them. He knew every single one. He had memorized them when he was 8 years old. He could play them in his sleep, but that was then. Before his mother died. Before he gave up everything. Before he buried that part of himself so deep he thought it could never come back. His hands were shaking. He put them in his lap, tried to steady them. He could feel sweat on his forehead. The spotlight was so hot. Or maybe he was just terrified. From somewhere in the room, he heard Derek laugh. Not loud, but loud enough. He heard Brad say something and then more laughter from their table. Marcus closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. Then another. He thought about walking off the stage. About admitting he could not do this. About accepting that some things were too broken to fix. But then another memory came. His mother in her hospital bed, 2 days before she died. Her hand in his. Her voice weak but determined. Music is a gift, Marcus. Don't waste it because of me. Don't let me be the reason you stop. Promise me. Please promise me, he had promised. And he had broken that promise every day for 4 years. Marcus opened his eyes. He looked at the piano keys. They looked back at him, waiting, patient, ready. He lifted his hands. They were still shaking, but he placed them on the keys anyway. The ivory was cool under his fingers, smooth, familiar. It felt like coming home after a long journey. The room was completely silent now. No one was talking. No one was drinking. Everyone was watching, waiting to see if Marcus Chen, the basement data entry clerk, could actually play. Marcus took one more breath. Then his fingers found the first chord. The sound that came from the piano was pure and clear and strong. It filled the ballroom. It rose to the ceiling and bounced off the walls and washed over every person in the room. Marcus played the opening notes of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was the piece his mother loved most. The piece he played at her funeral. The piece he swore he would never play again because it hurt too much. His fingers remembered. Even after 4 years, they remembered. They moved across the keys like they had never stopped. The muscle memory was still there. The feeling was still there. The music was still there, buried deep inside him, waiting for this exact moment. The notes flowed out of him. Soft at first, then building, growing stronger. more confident. His hands stopped shaking. His fear melted away. He forgot about Derek. He forgot about Brad. He forgot about the video and the jokes and being invited as entertainment. There was only the piano, only the music, only the memory of his mother sitting in her worn armchair with her eyes closed and tears of joy running down her face. Marcus's own tears started to fall. He could not stop them, did not want to stop them. They fell onto the keys as he played. The music grew more powerful, more emotional. Years of grief and anger and loss poured through his fingers into the piano. Every sacrifice, every missed opportunity. Every night he worked 3 jobs instead of studying music. Every choice he made for love instead of for himself. It all came out in the music. The ballroom was completely silent except for the piano. 300 people sat frozen, listening. Some had tears in their eyes. Some had their hands over their mouths. Elizabeth Hartwell sat at the head table with a strange expression on her face. Not pity, not surprise. Something else. Something like recognition. At Derek's table, the grinning had stopped. Derek sat with his champagne glass forgotten in his hand, staring at the stage. Brad looked down at the table, his face red. They were not laughing anymore. Margaret, at the back table where Marcus had been sitting, had tears streaming down her face. She held a napkin to her mouth and cried quietly. Marcus did not see any of this. His eyes were closed. He was somewhere else. Somewhere 4 years ago. Somewhere his mother was still alive, still listening, still proud of her son who had such a beautiful gift. The music built to its climax. Marcus's hands flew across the keys, fast then slow, loud then soft. Every emotion he had bottled up for 4 years came pouring out. The piano sang. It cried. It celebrated. It mourned. Then slowly the music began to wind down. The notes became softer, gentler, like a storm finally passing, like the sun coming out after rain. Marcus played the final chord and let it ring out across the silent ballroom. Then he lifted his hands from the keys. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. No sound, no movement. The silence was so complete that Marcus could hear his own breathing. He opened his eyes and looked at his hands. They were steady now. The shaking was gone. Then the applause started. It began with 1 person, then 2, then 10, then everyone. People rose to their feet. The sound was like thunder, loud and overwhelming and wonderful. Marcus turned around slowly. He saw 300 people standing, clapping. Some were crying. Some were smiling. Some looked shocked, like they could not believe what they had just heard. At the head table, Elizabeth Hartwell was standing too. She was clapping slowly, deliberately. Her face still had that strange expression, that look of recognition, like she understood something important. Marcus stood up from the piano bench. His legs felt weak. His heart was pounding. But something else was different too. Something inside him that had been locked away for 4 years had finally opened. It hurt. It felt raw and painful and scary, but it also felt right. He walked off the stage. The applause continued. People reached out to touch his shoulder as he passed, to shake his hand, to say amazing and beautiful and incredible. Marcus heard the words, but they felt far away. He was still partly in that other place. That place where his mother was still alive and everything made sense. He made it back to his table. Margaret grabbed his hand and squeezed it hard. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, she said through her tears. Marcus sat down. His whole body was shaking now. Adrenaline, relief, grief, everything at once. He put his hands on the table to steady himself. The applause finally died down. People returned to their seats. Conversations started again, but they were different now. Excited, amazed. Everyone was talking about what they had just witnessed. Marcus picked up his water glass and drank it all. His throat was dry. His eyes were sore from crying, but he felt lighter somehow, like something heavy he had been carrying for years had finally been set down. Elizabeth Hartwell was standing again. She walked across the ballroom. Not to the microphone, not to the stage. She walked directly toward Marcus's table at the back of the room. People stopped talking as she passed. Derek's table went completely silent. Brad stared at his plate like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Elizabeth stopped next to Marcus. He stood up quickly, almost knocking over his chair. Marcus barely slept on Saturday night. He lay in his small bed, staring at the ceiling. replaying the evening over and over in his mind. The way his fingers felt on the piano keys, the silence of the room as he played, the tears on his face, the applause. Elizabeth Hartwell's voice saying Monday morning, 8 a.m., what did she want? Was he in trouble? Had he somehow broken a rule by playing? Or was it something else? He finally fell asleep around 4 in the morning and woke up 2 hours later with his heart pounding. Sunday passed in a blur. Marcus tried to read a book but could not focus on the words. He tried to watch television, but the shows made no sense. He made food but forgot to eat it. All he could think about was Monday morning. When Monday finally came, Marcus woke up before his alarm. He showered and dressed in his regular work clothes. A simple shirt and pants. Nothing fancy. He caught the early bus downtown so he would not be late. Sterling Tech was quiet at 7:30 in the morning. Most people did not arrive until 8 or later. Marcus took the elevator to the executive floor. He had only been up here once before, on his first day of work 3 years ago. The carpet was thicker here. The walls had real artwork instead of corporate posters. Everything felt expensive and important. He found Elizabeth Hartwell's office at the end of a long hallway. The door was made of dark wood with a small nameplate. Elizabeth Hartwell, Chief Executive Officer. Marcus stood outside for a moment trying to calm his breathing. Then he knocked. Come in, a voice called. Marcus opened the door. The office was large with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. Elizabeth sat behind a big desk made of the same dark wood as the door. She was reading something on her computer. She looked up when Marcus entered. Mr. Chen, right on time. Please sit down. Marcus sat in one of the chairs facing her desk. The chair was leather and comfortable, but he could not relax. His back was straight. His hands were folded in his lap. Elizabeth studied him for a moment. Then she turned her computer screen so he could see it. It showed an article from a local newspaper. The headline read, Local Student Accepted to Juilliard School of Music. Below the headline was a photo. A 17-year-old Marcus standing next to his mother. Both of them were smiling. His mother's hand was on his shoulder. Marcus's throat went tight when he saw the picture. His mother looked so happy, so proud, so alive. I found this Saturday night after the gala, Elizabeth said. I was curious about you, about how someone working in our basement could play like that. So I did some research. She pointed to another window on her screen. I also found your mother's obituary. And the dates. You were supposed to start at Juilliard in September. She died in August. You never went. Marcus said nothing. His eyes stayed on the photo of his mother. You gave up a full scholarship to one of the best music schools in the world, Elizabeth continued. You stayed home to take care of her, to work, to pay for treatments. That's what Mrs. Patterson said at the gala, and now I know it's true. Yes, ma'am, Marcus finally said. His voice was quiet. Elizabeth leaned back in her chair. I want to tell you something, Mr. Chen, something personal. I had a daughter, Emily. She was brilliant. She got accepted to medical school when she was 22. Full scholarship. She was going to be a surgeon. Marcus looked up. Elizabeth's face had changed. The hard business expression was gone. Now she looked tired, sad. My husband got sick the month before Emily was supposed to start school. Cancer, like your mother. Emily called the medical school and told them she couldn't come. She stayed home to take care of her father. She worked. She paid bills. She sat with him during treatments. Elizabeth paused. He died 18 months later. By then, Emily's scholarship was gone. She couldn't afford medical school without it. She never became a surgeon. I'm sorry, Marcus said softly. She's 43 now. She works as a nurse. She loves her job. But sometimes I see her looking at doctors' offices or hospitals with this expression on her face. Like she's wondering what her life would have been if things had been different. Elizabeth looked directly at Marcus. Do you know that expression? That look of wondering? Marcus nodded. He knew it well. He saw it in his own mirror sometimes. When I heard you play on Saturday night, I saw something in you. Pain, yes. Grief, absolutely. But also talent. Real extraordinary talent. The kind of talent that shouldn't be wasted. Elizabeth picked up a folder from her desk. I looked at your employment record. You've worked here for 3 years. Data entry. Same position the entire time. No raises except the standard cost of living adjustments. No promotions. No recognition. She opened the folder and slid it across the desk to Marcus. He picked it up and looked inside. There were papers, forms, numbers. That's an offer for a new position, Elizabeth said. Department manager for the data analytics team. It comes with a real office, a window, a salary that's 3 times what you make now. Health insurance. Retirement benefits. Everything you should have had years ago. Marcus stared at the papers. 3 times his salary. That was more money than he had ever imagined making. That was money that could change his life, pay off debts, move to a better apartment, maybe even save some. But, Elizabeth continued, that's not the only offer I'm making you. Marcus looked up from the papers. I spoke with someone on Sunday, a friend of mine. His name is David Morrison. He runs a music conservatory here in the city. Not as prestigious as Juilliard, but excellent. Very good teachers. David heard the recording of your performance. Recording? Marcus asked. I had someone record it. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to remember it. Elizabeth smiled slightly. David was impressed. Very impressed. He said you have a rare gift. He wants to meet you. And if the meeting goes well, he's prepared to offer you a partial scholarship to study there. Marcus's heart was beating fast now. But I work. I need to work. I can't afford to be a full-time student. That's where my second offer comes in, Elizabeth said. If you choose to study music, Sterling Tech will hold a position for you. Not data entry. Something better. You'll work part-time while you study, 20 hours a week. We'll pay you enough to live on and help cover the cost the scholarship doesn't. When you graduate, if you want to come back full-time, the job will be waiting. If you want to pursue music professionally, you'll leave with our blessing and our support. Marcus could not speak. He looked at the papers in his hands. Then at Elizabeth. Then back at the papers. This could not be real. Things like this did not happen to people like him. Why? He finally asked. Why would you do this for me? Elizabeth was quiet for a moment. Because I couldn't do it for my daughter. Because talent like yours shouldn't be buried in a basement entering data. Because what those men did to you at the gala was wrong, and this company should be better than that. She paused. And because when I heard you play, I heard someone speaking a language I wish more people could speak. Music like that is important. It matters. Marcus looked down at his hands. The same hands that had touched piano keys on Saturday night. The same hands that had held his mother's hand as she died. The same hands that had typed data into computers for 3 years because he did not know what else to do. I need to think about it, he said quietly. Of course. Take your time. The offers will be here when you're ready. Elizabeth stood up. Marcus stood up too. She held out her hand. Whatever you decide, Mr. Chen, I want you to know something. You played with more courage on Saturday night than most people show in their entire lives. That takes strength. Don't forget that, Marcus shook her hand. Thank you, ma'am. He walked out of the office in a daze. The hallway seemed longer than before. The elevator ride down to the basement took forever. When he got to his desk, he just sat there. The computer screen was dark. The chair creaked like it always did. Everything was the same as it had been on Friday. But Marcus felt completely different. His phone buzzed. A text message from a number he did not recognize. This is David Morrison from the conservatory. Elizabeth gave me your number. I'd love to meet with you this week if you're available. The recording she sent me was remarkable. Marcus stared at the message. Then another text came. This one from Margaret in accounting. I heard you met with Elizabeth this morning. I hope it went well. You deserve good things, Marcus. How did Margaret know already? But then Marcus remembered. This was Sterling Tech. News traveled fast here. Especially news about the CEO calling someone to her office. Throughout the day, people stopped by his desk. People who had never spoken to him before. They wanted to tell him how much they enjoyed his performance. How moved they were. How talented he was. Some asked if he would play again. Maybe at the next company event. Maybe at the holiday party. Marcus thanked them all politely. But inside he felt overwhelmed. Too many voices. Too many questions. Too much attention. He was used to being invisible. This was the opposite of invisible. At lunch, he did not go to the server room like usual. Instead, he walked to a small park a few blocks from the office. He sat on a bench and ate his sandwich and watched people walk by. Office workers. Parents with children. Old couples holding hands. Everyone living their lives. Everyone with their own stories. Their own choices. Their own what-ifs. Marcus thought about the 2 offers Elizabeth had made. The safe choice was obvious. I did it, she shouted. Dad, I did it! The father was crying. Happy tears. Proud tears. Marcus understood those tears. His mother had cried them too so many times, watching him play piano, watching him succeed, watching him be everything she had hoped he would be. Marcus stood up from the bench. He walked back to Sterling Tech, back to his basement desk. But instead of sitting down, he pulled out his phone. He looked at David Morrison's text message. Then he typed a response. I would like to meet with you. When works best for you? The reply came fast. How about Wednesday at 2 p.m.? The conservatory is on Maple Street. I'll be in my office, Marcus sent back. I'll be there. Then he opened a new message. This one to Elizabeth Hartwell. He had her direct number now from the papers she gave him. He typed carefully. Thank you for the offers. I need a few days to think. But I wanted you to know that what you did means more than I can say. He hit send. Then he sat down at his desk and went back to work. Numbers, data, screens, the same thing he had done for 3 years. But now for the first time it felt temporary, like he was standing at a crossroads and both paths stretched out before him, and he just had to decide which one to take. Wednesday came too quickly. Marcus left work at 1:30 and took the bus to Maple Street. The conservatory was in an old building that used to be a mansion. It had been converted into classrooms and practice rooms. Music came from every window. Piano, violin, voices singing scales. Marcus stood outside for a moment, listening. It had been so long since he heard live music, since he was around other musicians, since he was part of that world. He walked inside. A student at the front desk directed him to David Morrison's office on the second floor. Marcus climbed the stairs slowly. The walls were covered with photos of students performing, concert programs, awards. This place was alive with music in a way his basement at Sterling Tech never was. David Morrison's office was small but warm. Books everywhere, music sheets stacked on every surface, a small keyboard in the corner. David himself was about 50 with gray hair and glasses. He stood when Marcus entered and shook his hand firmly. Marcus, thank you for coming. Please sit. David gestured to a chair. He sat across from Marcus, leaning forward with his hands clasped. Elizabeth sent me the recording of your performance. I've listened to it probably 30 times now. It's extraordinary. The technique is there, absolutely. But more than that, there's emotion. Real, raw emotion. That's what makes music matter. Thank you, Marcus said. Tell me your story. How did you start playing? What happened after Juilliard? Marcus told him. All of it, his mother. The scholarship. The cancer. The choice. The 3 jobs. The funeral. The 4 years of not playing. It all came out easier than he expected. David listened without interrupting. His face showed understanding, sympathy, recognition. My father was a musician, David said when Marcus finished. A violinist. He had a chance to join a major orchestra in Europe when I was young. But my mother got sick. He stayed. He never joined that orchestra. He taught music at a local high school instead. David smiled sadly. He never regretted it. But I always wondered if he thought about what could have been. Did he ever play again? After? Marcus asked. Every day, David said. Until the day he died. Music was part of him. Choosing family over career didn't change that. It just changed how he expressed it. David leaned back in his chair. That's what I want you to understand, Marcus. Music isn't something you can turn off. You tried. You tried for 4 years. But it was still there, waiting. Saturday night proved that. Marcus nodded slowly. I'm scared, he admitted. What if I'm not good enough anymore? What if I've lost too much time? You won't know until you try, David said simply. And yes, you've lost time. Yes, you'll have to work hard to catch up, but you have something most of my students don't have. You have life experience. You have pain. You have depth. That makes your music real. That makes it matter. He pulled out some papers from his desk drawer. Here's what I'm offering. A partial scholarship. It covers about 60% of tuition. With Elizabeth's arrangement at Sterling Tech, you'll work part-time and study part-time. It won't be easy. You'll be tired. You'll be busy. But it's possible. And at the end, you'll have a degree in music. What you do with that degree is up to you. Marcus looked at the papers, then at David. then at the window where he could see students walking between buildings carrying instrument cases talking about music. "Can I think about it?" Marcus asked. "Just a few more days." "Of course. This is a big decision." "Take the time you need." David stood and walked to the keyboard in the corner. "But before you go, would you play something for me?" "Just a little bit. I want to hear you in person." Marcus hesitated. Then he stood and walked to the keyboard. It was small, not like the grand piano at the gala, but it would work. He sat down and placed his fingers on the keys. He played something simple, a piece by Chopin, one his mother used to love. His fingers moved slowly, carefully. It had only been 4 days since the gala, but already he could feel the rust coming back, the stiffness in his hands, the hesitation, but the music was still there. Under the rust, under the fear. It was still there. He played for 3 minutes. Then he stopped and stood up. David was smiling. "You belong here, Marcus. I hope you choose to come." Marcus left the conservatory in a daze. He walked for a while instead of taking the bus.
He needed to think.
To process, to decide. That evening in his small apartment, Marcus stood in front of the closet where his suit still hung. The suit he wore to the gala. The suit he wore to his mother's funeral. He pulled it out and laid it on the bed. Then he opened the small box he kept in the back of his closet. Inside were photos. His mother. Himself as a child. The letter from Juilliard. Programs from recitals he performed when he was young. Everything from his old life. He sat on the bed and looked through them. His mother's face smiled back at him from every photo. Young and healthy in the early pictures. Older and tired in the later ones. But always proud, always loving. Marcus picked up the Juilliard letter. He had not read it in years. The words were familiar but painful. "We are pleased to offer you a full scholarship." He never got to finish that sentence. Never got to see what came after. But maybe he did not need to. Maybe there was another path. Not the one he originally planned. Not Juilliard. Not that version of his life. But something else. Something new. Something that honored both his past and his future. Marcus put the photos back in the box. He hung the suit back in the closet. Then he sat at his small kitchen table and pulled out his phone. He opened a new message to Elizabeth Hartwell. "I've decided," he typed. "I want to study music. I want to take the part-time position and the scholarship. Thank you for believing in me." He hit send before he could change his mind. Then he opened another message, this one to David Morrison. "I accept your offer. When can I start?" The reply came within minutes. "Classes begin in 2 weeks. Welcome to the conservatory, Marcus." Marcus set his phone down. His hands were shaking, not from fear this time, from something else. Something that felt like hope, like possibility, like the door to a room he thought was locked forever had suddenly opened. He stood and walked to his window. Outside, the city lights were coming on as the sun set. People were heading home from work, living their lives, making their choices. Marcus made his choice. It was not the safe choice. It was not the easy choice. But it was his choice. And for the first time in 4 years, he felt like he was moving forward instead of just surviving. He thought about Saturday night, about sitting at that piano, about his mother's promise, about the music that came out of him after years of silence. That was not an ending, he realized. That was a beginning, and now he had to see where this new beginning would take him. The first day at the conservatory felt like stepping into a different world. Marcus arrived 30 minutes early, carrying a backpack with notebooks and pens. He wore clean jeans and a simple shirt. Around him, other students chatted easily about pieces they were learning and teachers they hoped to study with. Most of them looked young. 18, 19, maybe 20. Fresh from high school with their whole lives ahead of them. Marcus was 28, almost a decade older than most of his classmates. He felt it in every interaction. When a girl with bright red hair asked him what high school he went to, he had to explain he graduated 10 years ago. When a young man invited him to a party that weekend, Marcus had to decline because he had work the next morning at Sterling Tech. The conservatory was small compared to Juilliard, only about 200 students total, but the teachers were good, really good. Some had performed with major orchestras, some had won international competitions. They knew music inside and out. Marcus's first class was music theory. The teacher, Professor Walsh, was an older woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She did not care if students felt comfortable. She cared if they learned. Music theory is the foundation, she said on that first day. Without it, you're just making noise. With it, you understand why certain notes work together, why certain progressions move us, why music has power. Marcus took notes frantically. Some of this he remembered from his lessons as a teenager, but much of it was new, or forgotten. 4 years away from music had erased more than he realized. After theory came private lessons. Marcus had been assigned to study with Professor Chen, no relation despite the same last name. Professor Chen was in his 60s, originally from Taiwan, and had performed piano across the world for 40 years before retiring to teach. Their first lesson took place in a small practice room. Just Marcus, Professor Chen, and a grand piano. Play something for me, Professor Chen said, settling into a chair. Anything you like. Marcus sat at the piano. His fingers felt stiff. He had not practiced since Wednesday 3 days ago when he played for David Morrison. He chose something simple. A Mozart sonata he used to know well. He got through the first page before Professor Chen held up his hand. Stop. Marcus stopped. His heart sank. He was rusty. Too rusty. The professor was going to tell him he was not ready, that he needed to wait, that he should come back when he was better prepared. But Professor Chen just smiled slightly. You play like someone afraid of the piano, like you think it will bite you if you press too hard. I haven't played in 4 years, Marcus admitted. Not until last week, I know. David told me your story. Professor Chen stood and walked to the piano. May I? Marcus moved to the chair. Professor Chen sat down and placed his hands on the keys. Then he played the same Mozart piece Marcus had just attempted. The difference was immediate. Where Marcus had been careful and hesitant, Professor Chen was bold and confident. The notes sang. They danced. They filled the small room with joy and energy. He finished the page and looked at Marcus. You see the difference? You're better than me, Marcus said. No, I'm not afraid. You have the technique. You have the knowledge. What you don't have is trust. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust the piano. You don't trust the music. Professor Chen stood and gestured for Marcus to return to the piano. Play it again. But this time, play like you mean it. Play like you believe what you're saying. Marcus sat back down. He took a breath. Then he played. It was better this time. Not perfect. Not as good as Professor Chen, but better. Stronger. More confident. Good, Professor Chen said when he finished. That's the beginning. Now we build from there. The weeks that followed were exhausting. Marcus woke up at 6 every morning. He practiced piano for an hour before work. Then he went to Sterling Tech and worked his part-time schedule from 9 to 1. 20 hours a week like Elizabeth promised. He had a small office now. Nothing fancy, but it had a window. Natural light. A door that closed. His new position was coordinating between different departments, making sure data flowed properly, fixing problems before they became big problems. It was still computer work, but it required thinking. Problem solving, communication, it was better than data entry. Much better. At 2 o'clock, Marcus left Sterling Tech and took the bus to the conservatory. Classes from 3 to 6. Music theory, music history, ear training. Then practice rooms were available until 10 at night. Marcus stayed as late as he could, usually leaving around 9. By the time he got home, made dinner, and did homework, it was midnight. He slept 6 hours and started again. It was brutal. After 2 weeks, Marcus was exhausted. After 4 weeks, he was so tired he could barely think straight. His fingers hurt from practicing. His back hurt from sitting at pianos all day. His eyes hurt from reading music theory textbooks late at night. But something was happening. Slowly, week by week, the rust was coming off. His fingers remembered faster. His mind processed music more quickly. The fear was fading, replaced by something else. Not confidence yet, but determination. Professor Chen pushed him hard. Every lesson he assigned more difficult pieces. Beethoven, Brahms, Liszt. Pieces that made Marcus's hands cramp and his brain ache. But Professor Chen never accepted excuses. You have lost time to make up for, he would say. If you want to be good, you work twice as hard as everyone else. If you want to be great, you work 3 times as hard. So Marcus worked 3 times as hard, 4 times, 5 times. While other students went to parties on weekends, Marcus practiced. While they slept in on Sunday mornings, Marcus was in a practice room. While they complained about difficult assignments, Marcus just nodded and kept working. The other students noticed. At first they tried to include him, invited him to study groups, asked if he wanted to get coffee. But Marcus always said no. He had work. He had practice. He had no time for socializing. Eventually they stopped asking. He became the older guy who kept to himself. The serious one. The one who was always in the practice rooms, always working, always alone. Marcus told himself it did not matter. He was not here to make friends. He was here to learn music, to honor his mother's memory, to prove to himself that the last 4 years had not destroyed his gift. But sometimes, late at night in his apartment, he felt lonely. He missed having people to talk to. He missed the easy conversations he used to have with his mother. She would have been so proud to see him studying music again. So happy. But she was gone, and Marcus was doing this alone. 3 months into the semester, Professor Chen announced that all students would perform in a recital. A small one, just for other students and teachers, but everyone had to participate. It was part of the curriculum. Marcus's stomach dropped when he heard the news. Playing at the gala had been one thing. That was spontaneous, emotional. He had not had time to overthink it, but a planned performance? That was different. That meant preparing, rehearsing, worrying. You will play Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, No. 2, Professor Chen told him after class one day. It is beautiful, emotional, perfect for you. Marcus knew the piece. His mother used to request it all the time. It was gentle and sad and lovely. But that was also the problem. It reminded him too much of her. Playing it would open old wounds. Can I play something else? Marcus asked. No, Professor Chen said simply. This piece will teach you something important. You need to learn it, so Marcus learned it. He practiced it every day, morning and evening, over and over until his fingers could play it in his sleep. But every time he played, he felt the grief rising in his chest. His mother's face, her smile, her voice saying how much she loved this piece. The night before the recital, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining all the ways he could fail. He could forget the notes. His hands could freeze. He could break down crying in front of everyone. At 3 a.m, he gave up on sleep. He got dressed and walked to the conservatory. He knew the building was open all night. Students could practice whenever they wanted. He let himself in and went to his usual practice room. He sat at the piano and placed his hands on the keys. Then he played the Chopin Nocturne. In the dark room with no one listening, the music sounded different, sadder, more honest. Marcus played with his eyes closed, letting the notes flow through him. He thought about his mother, about all the times she sat listening to him practice, about her funeral, about the 4 years he spent running from this exact feeling. Tears ran down his face, but he kept playing. The music wrapped around him like a blanket, sad but comforting, painful but healing. When he finished, he sat in the dark for a long time. His hands rested on the keys. His breathing was slow and steady. Something inside him felt different, lighter. That was beautiful. Marcus jumped and turned around. A girl stood in the doorway. She was young, maybe 20, with long dark hair and kind eyes. Marcus recognized her from his music theory class but did not know her name. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean to spy. I was in the next practice room and heard you playing. It was really beautiful. Thank you, Marcus said, wiping his face quickly. She stepped into the room. I'm Sarah. We're in Professor Walsh's class together. Marcus. I know. She smiled. Everyone knows you. You're the guy who plays all the time. The serious one. Marcus did not know what to say to that. Sarah sat in the chair by the door. Can I tell you something? When I first saw you, I thought you were so intense, like you were angry at the piano or something. But just now, listening to you play, I realized you're not angry. You're just sad. Marcus looked down at the piano keys. My mother died 4 years ago. She loved this piece. I'm sorry, Sarah said softly. My brother died 2 years ago. Car accident. He was 17. She paused. Music helps. It doesn't fix it, but it helps. They sat in silence for a moment. Two people who understood loss, who understood that music could hold grief in a way words could not. The recital is in 8 hours, Sarah said. Are you going to be okay? Marcus thought about it. Then he nodded. I think so. Good, I'll be there listening. And when you play this piece, I'll know what it means to you. That makes it special. She stood and walked to the door. Get some sleep, Marcus. You'll do great. Then she was gone and Marcus was alone again. But he felt less alone than before. Someone understood. Someone had heard his story and had not run away. He went home and slept for 3 hours. Then he woke up, showered, and dressed in his suit. The same suit from the gala. The same suit from the funeral. It was becoming his performance suit. His armor. The recital was at 2 in the afternoon. Marcus arrived early and sat backstage listening to other students perform. Some were good. Some were nervous and made mistakes. Everyone clapped politely after each performance. Then it was his turn. His name was called. Marcus stood and walked onto the small stage. The audience was maybe 50 people, students, teachers, a few parents. Nothing like the gala. Much smaller. Much less intimidating, but his heart still pounded. His hands still shook. He sat at the piano. He adjusted the bench. He placed his hands on the keys. In the audience, he saw Sarah. She smiled at him. A small, encouraging smile. Marcus took a breath. Then he played. The Chopin nocturne flowed out of him like water. Gentle and sad and beautiful. He forgot about the audience. He forgot about his nerves. He played for his mother. For her memory. For all the times she listened to him practice this exact piece in their small apartment, while she sat in her worn chair and cried happy tears. The music told a story. Of love and loss. Of grief and healing. Of a son who missed his mother and honored her through the thing she loved most. When the last note faded, Marcus lifted his hands from the keys. The room was quiet for a moment. Then applause filled the space. Not thunderous like at the gala, but warm, appreciative, real. Marcus stood and bowed slightly. Then he walked off stage, his legs shaking. Professor Chen found him in the hallway afterward. You played with your heart, the professor said. That is what matters most. Technique can be taught, heart cannot. Thank you, Marcus said. The piece hurt you to play. I could see it. But you played it anyway. That takes courage. Professor Chen patted his shoulder. You are becoming a real musician, Marcus. Not just someone who plays notes. Someone who speaks through music. The rest of the semester passed quickly. Winter came and the conservatory grew cold. Marcus practiced with fingerless gloves to keep his hands warm. He drank too much coffee and not enough water. He lost weight from running between work and school and practice, but he improved. Every week he was better than the week before, faster, more confident, more musical. At Sterling Tech, people noticed the change in him too. He walked differently now, talked differently. There was energy in him that had not been there before. Even though he was exhausted, he seemed more alive. Derek, his old supervisor, avoided him now. They passed in hallways sometimes. Derek would nod slightly and keep walking. The cruel jokes had stopped. The mockery had ended. Word had spread about what Elizabeth Hartwell had done for Marcus. About the promotion. About the scholarship. No one wanted to be on the wrong side of that story. Margaret from accounting stopped by Marcus's office once a week. She always brought him something. A cookie, a piece of fruit, a sandwich. You're too skinny, she would say. You need to eat more. Marcus appreciated her kindness. She reminded him a little of his mother. That same gentle concern, that same desire to take care of people. One day in late November, Elizabeth Hartwell herself stopped by his office. Marcus jumped up from his chair when she entered. Please sit down, she said, waving him back to his seat. She sat in the chair across from his desk. How are the classes going? Good, really good. Hard but good. And the work here? Is the schedule manageable? Yes, ma'am. 20 hours is perfect. More than that would be too much. Elizabeth nodded. I've been hearing good things about you. The departments you coordinate with say you're efficient, professional. They like working with you. Thank you. She looked at him carefully. You look tired, Marcus. Are you taking care of yourself? The question surprised him. When was the last time someone asked if he was taking care of himself? I'm okay. Just busy. Busy is one thing. Burning out is another. Make sure you sleep. Eat properly. Take breaks. She stood to leave, then paused. I gave you this opportunity because I believed in you. Don't make me regret it by destroying your health in the process when I won't, Marcus promised. After she left, Marcus sat at his desk and thought about her words. When was the last time he took a break? When was the last time he did something just for enjoyment, not because it was required? He could not remember. That weekend, instead of practicing all day, Marcus went for a walk in the park. He sat on a bench and watched people, families, couples, dog walkers, just normal people living normal lives. He bought a coffee and drank it slowly, not rushing to get back to a practice room. It felt strange at first, like he was wasting time, but after an hour, something inside him relaxed. The constant tension in his shoulders eased. His mind felt clearer. When he did go to the conservatory that afternoon, he played better than he had in weeks. His fingers were more fluid, his interpretations more creative. Rest had helped. Professor Chen had been right. He could not work all the time. He had to take care of himself too. As the semester drew to a close, final exams approached. For Marcus, that meant a jury, a performance in front of all the piano teachers. They would evaluate his progress, decide if he could continue in the program. Marcus spent 2 weeks preparing. He had to play 3 pieces. The Chopin nocturne he performed at the recital, a Bach prelude and fugue, and a Rachmaninoff prelude. Together they represented different styles, different challenges. The day of the jury, Marcus woke up with his stomach in knots. This was different from the recital. This was judgment. This was his musical future being decided. He arrived at the conservatory an hour early. He sat in a practice room and played through all 3 pieces twice. By the time his appointment came, his hands were warmed up and ready. The jury room was small. 5 piano teachers sat behind a long table. Professor Chen was there, but he did not smile or give Marcus any encouragement. This was official, professional. Marcus sat at the piano. "Please begin with the Bach," one of the teachers said. Marcus played the Bach prelude and fugue. It was mathematical, precise. Every note had its place. Every voice had its role. He played it cleanly, accurately, exactly as it was written. Now the Chopin. The nocturne was different, emotional, expressive. Marcus played it thinking of his mother like he always did. The sadness flowed through his fingers into the keys. And finally, the Rachmaninoff. This was the hardest piece. Fast, powerful, demanding. Marcus's hands flew across the keys. His whole body moved with the music. It required everything he had. All his strength, all his focus, all his passion. When he finished, he was breathing hard. His hands ached. Sweat dripped down his face. The teachers conferred quietly among themselves. Marcus sat at the piano waiting. His heart pounded in his chest. Finally, one of the teachers spoke. "Mr. Chen, we've reviewed your progress this semester. You came to us with significant gaps in your training. 4 years is a long time to be away from music." Marcus's heart sank. They were going to say he had not improved enough, that he needed more time, that he should wait another semester. However, the teacher continued, "Your dedication has been remarkable. Your progress has exceeded our expectations. You've worked harder than any student I've seen in 20 years of teaching." Marcus's breath caught. "You're approved to continue in the program." "Well done, Mr. Chen." Relief washed over Marcus like a wave. He stood and bowed slightly. "Thank you." "Thank you so much." Professor Chen smiled then, a small smile but genuine. "Keep working like this and you'll do more than just continue. You'll excel." Marcus left the jury room feeling lighter than he had in months. 3.5 years passed like water through Marcus's hands. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, but always moving forward. He completed 8 semesters at the conservatory. 8 semesters of early mornings and late nights, of practice rooms and theory classes, of performances and juries, of slowly, steadily becoming the musician he was always meant to be. The work at Sterling Tech continued too. 20 hours a week like Elizabeth promised. Marcus had proven himself valuable. The departments loved working with him. He solved problems before they grew. He communicated clearly. He made the company run more smoothly, but music was his real life now. Everything else was just support. Just the structure that allowed him to pursue what truly mattered. In his second year, Professor Chen increased the difficulty of his assignments. Marcus learned pieces by Prokofiev, Scriabin, Debussy. Each composer had a different voice, a different way of speaking through music. Marcus had to learn all their languages. He also started performing more. Small concerts at the conservatory, student recitals, coffee shop shows. Each performance taught him something new about stage presence, about managing nerves, about connecting with an audience. Sarah, the girl who found him practicing late at night before his first recital, became his closest friend at the conservatory. She studied violin and had the same fierce dedication Marcus did. They practiced together sometimes, encouraged each other, celebrated each other's successes, and helped each other through failures. "You're different from when you started," Sarah told him one day in their third year. They were sitting in the student lounge drinking coffee between classes. "You used to look so serious all the time, so heavy. Now you smile sometimes." Marcus thought about that. She was right. The weight he carried had not disappeared. His mother was still gone. That grief would always be part of him. But he had learned to carry it differently. Music gave him a place to put the pain, to transform it into something beautiful instead of letting it crush him. In his fourth and final year, Marcus had to prepare his senior recital. A full hour-long concert. This was the culmination of everything he had learned, everything he had worked for. The final test before graduation. He met with Professor Chen to choose the program. They sat in the familiar practice room where Marcus had spent hundreds of hours over the past 4 years. "What do you want to say?" Professor Chen asked. "A recital is not just notes on a page. It's a statement." "What statement do you want to make?" Marcus thought carefully. What did he want to say? What was the story he wanted to tell through music? "I want to talk about transformation," he finally said. "About grief and hope. About losing something and finding yourself." Professor Chen nodded slowly. "Then we build a program around that theme. We start with loss, move through struggle, end with triumph." Together they crafted the program. It would begin with Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings, arranged for solo piano, one of the saddest pieces ever written. Perfect for representing grief. Then Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 14, the Moonlight Sonata. The first movement was quiet and introspective. The third movement was explosive and powerful. It represented the internal struggle, the fight to move forward. And finally, they would end with Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, the same piece Marcus played at the company gala 4 years ago. But this time arranged for solo piano. This time, he would play it not as someone drowning in grief, but as someone who had learned to swim through it. "It's ambitious," Professor Chen said. "The Rachmaninoff alone is 40 minutes. Adding the other pieces makes this a very long, very difficult program." "I can do it," Marcus said. And he meant it. 4 years of training had prepared him for this. The next 6 months were the hardest of Marcus's life. He practiced 6 hours a day on top of work and classes. His hands developed new calluses. His back ached from sitting at pianos. But slowly the program came together. In March, Marcus made a decision. He talked to David Morrison, the conservatory director, and Elizabeth Hartwell. He had an idea for his senior recital. He wanted to make it a charity concert. All proceeds would go to a cancer research foundation in his mother's name. "I want to do something that would make her proud," Marcus explained to them. "She sacrificed everything for me. I want to honor that, and maybe help other families who are going through what we went through." David and Elizabeth both agreed immediately. They helped him organize it. Instead of performing in the small conservatory recital hall, they booked a real concert venue downtown. A beautiful theater with 500 seats. They advertised it in the local paper, on social media, through Sterling Tech's company networks. Tickets were $20 each. All money would go to cancer research. Word spread quickly. The story of Marcus Chen and his mother touched people. The data entry clerk who gave up his dreams to care for his dying mother, who stopped playing piano for 4 years, who came back to music and was now dedicating his graduation recital to her memory. Local news picked up the story. A reporter came to interview Marcus at the conservatory. She asked about his mother, about the scholarship he gave up, about the gala performance that changed everything, about Elizabeth Hartwell and Professor Chen and his journey back to music. Marcus told the story honestly. All of it, the pain and the sacrifice, the years of struggling, the moment at the gala when he touched piano keys again after so long, the decision to return to music school, the hard work, the growth. "What would your mother think if she could see you now?" the reporter asked at the end of the interview. Marcus had to take a moment before answering. His throat felt tight. "I think she would be happy. Not because I became successful or because I'm graduating, but because I kept my promise to her. I played again. I didn't let my gift die with her. The article ran 2 weeks before the concert. It included the photo of teenage Marcus and his mother from the old newspaper article about his Juilliard acceptance. The photo where they were both smiling, both so full of hope. Marcus could barely look at it. But people responded powerfully. Ticket sales increased immediately. Within a week, the concert was completely sold out. Marcus's nerves grew as the date approached. This was bigger than anything he had ever done. Bigger than the gala. Bigger than any student recital. 500 people would be watching him, judging him, expecting something special. The night before the concert, Marcus could not sleep. Again, just like before his first recital. But this time he did not go to the conservatory alone. Sarah came with him. They let themselves into the building and went to Marcus's usual practice room. He sat at the piano but did not play immediately. He just looked at the keys. What if I fail? He asked quietly. What if I forget the notes? What if I'm not good enough? Sarah sat in the chair by the door, the same place she sat 4 years ago when she first heard him play the Chopin Nocturne. Then you fail, and you get back up and try again. That's what you've been doing for 4 years. Failing and trying again. This is different. This is for my mother. It has to be perfect. Your mother didn't love you because you were perfect, Sarah said gently. She loved you because you were you, and she would be proud of you no matter what happens tomorrow. You know that, Marcus nodded. Sarah was right. His mother never expected perfection. She just expected him to try, to work hard, to not give up. Play something for me, Sarah said. Not part of tomorrow's program. Something just for right now. Marcus thought for a moment. Then he played a simple folk song his mother used to sing to him when he was a child. A lullaby. Gentle and sweet. His fingers moved slowly across the keys, finding the melody. Sarah hummed along softly. When he finished, she smiled. That was lovely. Go home, sleep. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Marcus slept 4 hours. It was enough. The morning of the concert, he woke up with strange clarity. The nerves were still there, but under them was something else. Calm, purpose, readiness. He ate breakfast slowly, showered, dressed in his suit. The suit that had been with him through his mother's funeral. Through the gala. Through every important moment of the past 4 years. It fit him perfectly now, like armor he had grown into. At noon, he went to the theater for a final rehearsal. The stage was large, much larger than any he had played on before. The piano in the center was magnificent. A Steinway concert grand, the same model used in the greatest concert halls in the world. Marcus sat at it and played through sections of his program. The theater was empty except for the stage crew setting up lights and sound. His music echoed in the empty space, filling it with sound. By 4 o'clock, people began arriving. Marcus watched from backstage as the theater filled. 500 seats, every single one occupied. He saw people from Sterling Tech. Elizabeth Hartwell sat in the front row. Margaret from accounting was there with her husband. Derek was there too, sitting near the back, looking uncomfortable. Students from the conservatory filled an entire section. Sarah and his other classmates. Professor Chen sat with the other teachers. David Morrison was there. Everyone who had been part of Marcus's journey. But there were also people Marcus did not know. Strangers who had read the article, who had been moved by his story, who wanted to support cancer research in memory of a woman they never met. At 7:30, the house lights dimmed. When he finished the piece, the silence in the theater was profound. No one moved. Some people were crying quietly. Marcus moved immediately into the Beethoven Moonlight Sonata. The first movement was gentle, contemplative, like walking through a dark forest, trying to find a path forward. The third movement exploded with energy and fury. This was the struggle, the anger at unfairness, the fight to survive. Marcus's hands flew across the keys. His whole body moved with the music. Sweat dripped down his face. The music built and built until it reached a climax and then ended suddenly, like a door slamming shut. He paused for 30 seconds. Let the silence settle. Then he began the final piece. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. The piece his mother loved most. The piece he played at her funeral. The piece he played at the gala 4 years ago when he touched a piano for the first time in years. But this time was different. This time, Marcus was not drowning in grief. He was swimming through it. The music was still sad, but there was hope in it too. Beauty, strength, transformation. His fingers knew every note. He had played this piece hundreds of times over the past 4 years. But tonight it felt new, fresh, like he was discovering it for the first time. The music built slowly, carefully. Each phrase led to the next. Each section developed the themes. Marcus poured everything into it. 4 years of practice, 4 years of growth, 4 years of learning to live with loss. He thought about his mother. Not her death this time, but her life, her laughter, her strength, her sacrifices, the way she worked 2 jobs so he could have piano lessons, the way she sat in her chair and cried happy tears listening to him play, the way she made him promise to never give up on music. He had kept that promise. It took him 4 years, but he kept it. The music grew more powerful, more joyful. This was not just grief anymore. This was celebration. This was gratitude for having known such love, for having been given such a gift, for having a mother who believed in him so completely. The final section built to a climax. Marcus's hands moved across the entire keyboard. Low notes and high notes, thunder and lightning, everything he had, everything he was. The final chord rang out through the theater, strong and clear and triumphant. Marcus lifted his hands from the keys. He sat very still for a moment. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. His face was wet with tears. Then the applause started. It began as a rumble and grew into a roar. 500 people rose to their feet. The sound was overwhelming, deafening, beautiful. Marcus stood and bowed. The applause continued. He bowed again. People were not just clapping. They were cheering, shouting. Some were crying. In the front row, Elizabeth Hartwell was on her feet, clapping with tears running down her face. Next to her, Margaret sobbed openly. Throughout the theater, people held tissues to their eyes. Professor Chen stood with the other teachers, clapping slowly and deliberately. The expression on his face was pride, pure pride. Sarah and the other conservatory students were cheering loudly, whistling and stamping their feet. Even Derek, sitting in the back, was standing and clapping. His face was serious, thoughtful, maybe even ashamed of the person he used to be. Marcus bowed one more time. Then he walked off stage. His legs felt weak. His whole body was trembling. Backstage, David Morrison grabbed him in a hug. "That was magnificent," David said. "Absolutely magnificent." Professor Chen appeared next. He put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Your mother would be so proud. I wish she could have seen this." "She did," Marcus said quietly. "I know she did." The theater slowly emptied. People left talking excitedly, moved, inspired, changed by what they had heard. Later that evening, after everyone else had gone home, Marcus returned to the empty theater alone. He walked onto the dark stage. The piano still sat in the center, silent now. He sat at the bench one more time and placed his hands on the keys. He did not play. He just sat there in the darkness, feeling the smooth ivory under his fingers. "I did it, Mom," he whispered. "I kept my promise." In the silence of the empty theater, Marcus felt something he had not felt in a long time. Peace. Real, deep peace. The grief was still there. It would always be there. But it no longer controlled him. It was part of him, woven into his music, transformed into something beautiful. He stood and walked off stage. In the lobby, Elizabeth Hartwell was waiting for him. She had stayed behind after everyone else left. "I wanted to talk to you," she said. "About what comes next." "Next?" Marcus asked. "You graduate in 2 months. Have you thought about what you want to do? Continue at Sterling Tech full-time? Pursue music professionally, both?" Marcus had thought about it, a lot. "I think I want to teach, like Professor Chen, Like my old teacher, Mrs. Patterson, I want to help other people find music the way they helped me. Elizabeth nodded. David Morrison mentioned that the conservatory might have a teaching position opening up next year, an adjunct professor role. You could teach while continuing to perform. Build a career slowly. That sounds perfect, Marcus said. Sterling Tech will always have a place for you if you need it. But I think your real calling is music. Go toward that. Don't be afraid. She smiled. You've already proven you can handle difficult choices. This one should be easy. She was right. 4 years ago, choosing music over the safety of a full-time job would have terrified Marcus. But not anymore. He had learned he was stronger than he thought. Braver than he believed. Capable of more than he imagined. 2 months later, Marcus graduated from the conservatory. He wore the traditional cap and gown. He walked across the stage and received his diploma in music performance. Bachelor of Music. The degree he should have earned 8 years earlier. The degree his mother always dreamed he would get. His mother was not there to see it. But Marcus felt her presence anyway. In the music that filled the auditorium. In the pride of his professors. In his own heart, which was fuller than it had been in years. After graduation, true to Elizabeth's word, David Morrison offered Marcus a part-time teaching position. He would teach beginner piano students at the conservatory, just a few students to start. Enough to build experience. Marcus also continued working part-time at Sterling Tech, not because he needed to financially, but because he wanted to. The people there had been part of his journey. Elizabeth, Margaret, even Derek, who had apologized to Marcus privately after the charity concert. But most of Marcus's time was devoted to music. He taught his students. He practiced. He performed at local venues, coffee shops, small concert halls, libraries, anywhere people wanted to hear classical piano music. 6 months after graduation, Marcus organized another charity concert. This time he invited his students to perform too. The youngest was 7 years old. The oldest was 65. They all played pieces they had learned. Simple pieces. Beginning pieces. But they played them with heart. Marcus performed at the end of the concert. He played new pieces. Music by living composers. Music that spoke of hope and resilience and moving forward. The audience was smaller than his senior recital. Only about 100 people. But they listened just as intently. After the concert, a man approached Marcus. He was older, maybe 70, with white hair and kind eyes. I wanted to tell you something, the man said. I read about you in the paper last year, about your mother, about giving up Juilliard to take care of her. He paused. I did the same thing 40 years ago. I was accepted to study art in Paris, but my father got sick and I stayed home. I never went back to art. I became an accountant instead. I'm sorry, Marcus said. Don't be. I had a good life. A happy life. But I always wondered what might have been. The old man smiled. Seeing you tonight, seeing what you've accomplished after going back to music, it gives me hope. It's never too late. Maybe I'll try painting again. Marcus felt his throat tighten. You should. Even if it's hard. Even if it's scary. You should try. Thank you, the man said. Then he walked away, leaving Marcus standing in the lobby of the small concert hall, thinking about how many people carried dreams they had set aside, how many people never picked them back up. He had almost been one of those people, if not for the gala, if not for Elizabeth, if not for that one moment when he decided to walk through the door and sit at the piano. He had almost let his gift stay buried forever. But he did not. He chose to try. He chose to be brave. He chose his mother's dream for him even though she was gone. That night, Marcus went home to his apartment. It was bigger now, 2 bedrooms instead of 1. The second bedroom had been converted into a practice room with a small upright piano. He did not need to go to the conservatory to practice anymore. He could play whenever he wanted. Marcus sat at his piano and played for an hour. No particular pieces, just improvisation. Melodies that came from his heart. Some sad, some happy, some somewhere in between. When he finished, he looked at the photo on his piano. His mother, young and smiling, her hand on teenage Marcus's shoulder, both of them full of hope for the future. "Thank you," Marcus whispered to the photo. "For everything, for the sacrifices, for the lessons, for making me promise. Thank you." The photo did not respond. It never would. But Marcus did not need it to. He knew his mother heard him. In the music, in the life he had built, in the promise he had kept. He had been invited to the company gala as a joke, as entertainment,